Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So this is the fourth session, inshallah, that we're going to be doing today, which is, I call it Islamic Goal Setting, and I was watching an interesting video by Dr. Zakir Naik about this, and then, of course, other resources as well. How many of you guys have heard of SMART goals? They talk about it a lot, and especially in the business world. You'll hear a lot about SMART goals, right? Okay, you haven't heard about it too much, but inshallah, it's very common. It's basically they have to be specific, measurable, accurate, or I don't remember the exact, attainable. Yes, Jazakumullah khairan. And the last one is time constrained. I don't remember what R is right now. But the point is that there's these common SMART goals are something very common in our business world. And I'm going to be presenting the Islamic point of view, inshallah, on this, on how we can set goals, as Muslims. Because as Muslims, if we're not those who are setting goals and trying to, oh, here it is. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, basically that you want to do it, and time-bound. So you should write that down. So SMART, those are SMART goals. And this is something very, very common, okay? And in society, they talk a lot about this. And when you're living a goal-oriented life, it's a different type of lifestyle than a person who's just ad hoc. That, we'll see when it comes, right? A lot of people have this attitude. They don't prepare for things beforehand, but rather they're like, okay, well, we'll see about the situation when it actually arises. Or I'm just going to chill in my life. When I'm forced to do something or I have to do something, then I'll do it. Otherwise, you know what? I really don't care one way or another. So as Muslims, of course, we should be those people who want to live a goal-oriented life. Is there a question?
It's about, do we have to write the mic?
No, not that. So there's different types of goals, of course, that we have. We have sometimes personal goals. We have sometimes, family goals that we want to do, career goals. There's school goals. So many different aspects of our life that we should have goals in. But what are some common ones that we should have, or aspirations as a Muslim? Yes.
Pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, so spiritual goals, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there should be a certain amount or something that we're doing. And give me some examples of some spiritual goals. Yes.
Restricting your faith.
Okay, but okay, so let's try to make it SMART though. Let's make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So remember, a lot of people, I want to increase my faith. Well, that's not really something attainable. Okay, like we can all, of course, try to, hold on 1 minute. So we can all increase in our faith. However, it's not something like, okay, I'm going to be at this level now, I'm going to be happy with myself, right? So faith, it's too general. So what's something specific? How could we break it down? Yes, Rida. Okay, good. So we can just start off, let's say there's 5 daily prayers, so we're doing the fard, okay, inshallah. All of us are doing that. And then now the rawatib, the sunnah, the common oft-repeated sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the ones that he would always do, the mu'akkadah, he would never miss them. We should try to start those, okay? And is that measurable? Can you see if you did 12 sunnah or not today? 10 or 12, according to some scholars. So yes, you can measure it. What about another spiritual goal? Yes.
Learning the meaning of the Quran.
Okay, learning the meaning of the Quran, and you could go through it. For example, maybe you set a goal for yourself for 5 ayat every single day, or maybe 1 page a day. I'm going to read the meaning of this. I'm going to read it in Arabic, then I'm going to read the translation or the tafsir of these verses, right? So that's something measurable, that's something time-bound. You can see if you did it or not, and it's something relevant to you. What else? What are some other spiritual goals? What about the adhkar from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So we have many ahadith like the istighfar and the tasbih and all these different tahmeed that he would do throughout the day. So we can try to implement those too. Yes.
You can have a goal to be better with your family.
Okay. So a goal to be better with your family, and sometimes again now a lot of Muslims we make those types of goals, but we don't really. Is that time bound? Is it like a SMART goal? No. Why? Because it's not specific enough. You're like, I want to be good to my family. Well, how can that be defined for me? So for me, one of the things that I do, alhamdulillah, with my family, we have a weekly, you could say a halaqah / family meeting. right? So I get my kids are young. We get together as a family and we have like a short lesson on hadith or Quran or something, and we discuss it together as a family, and then we go and we talk, we have a family meeting, we discuss different fun things, and then we either like play a game or we do something together with the kids as a family. And this is something like that. Is that specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Did I do it or not this week? Yes. Right? You know what I mean? So sometimes we try to say, yes, I want to be better with my family, but what does that really mean? It might mean for some people, I'm going to spend at least 1 hour doing something with my kids. Okay? Like last week, I took my kids, and there's like they thought it was a long hiking trail. It was like not even a quarter of a mile. All right? So it took like 10 minutes for us, but we walked and we were talking on the way, and they enjoyed it, alhamdulillah. So there's other things too as well, right, that we can enjoy. Yes?
Also, spending your wealth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, so spending wealth for the sake of Allah, that could be specific, that's specific, but can it be measured? So let's say we can say, we're going to spend $10 a week for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And every week, so that's time bound. Every week I have to spend, maybe on Fridays, for example, I'm going to give sadaqah $10. So these are different examples of these types of goals, right? And I like this quote. It said, when obstacles arise, you change your direction to reach your goal. You do not change your decision to get there. So a lot of times, Zig Ziglar, he was a motivational speaker. I didn't know who exactly he was, but so this guy, he said the truth at least in this point, right? So he said, when these obstacles arise, a lot of people, when they're going towards a direction, like for example, we've been talking about memorizing the Quran in the assembly, right? And when a person tries to go through that or to that path, obstacles are going to arise. Different difficulties are going to come in your life, and a lot of people, they're deterred and they stop doing it. They're like, well, after I finish college, after I get a job, after I have a family, after I'm retiring, and then by the time we're dead, right? So the thing is that a lot of people, they let these obstacles stop them from achieving their goals. So one of the things, and like what he said, you do not change your decision to get there. You don't just say, oh, forget it, I'm not going to do it anymore, or I'll do it 5-10 years down the line. But rather, you try to change the direction, or you try to get through those obstacles, and so you can still reach that goal of yours. Okay? And that's one of the things I'm going to be teaching you today, that when you're going to do goals, or when you're doing goal setting, you need to have in mind at least, or keep in mind, what are some of the obstacles that are probably going to come in your way. Okay, what are some of the things that are going to come in your way that will stop a person or from you from achieving those goals? So now there's this. It's a longer topic, so you're gonna have to take notes. I wasn't able to make a PowerPoint slide for all of these things, but there's a lot of things. So there's this lady. Her name was Wilma Rudolph. Okay, Wilma Rudolph. And she was born, and when she was born in 1920s or 30s or so, something like that, she got polio as a child. Okay, and polio it's a very debilitating disease where you're not able to run or walk. Okay, and you have to even sometimes use crutches or different things. She was able to walk, but she had to wear braces on her legs. Okay, and the doctors had told her that she would never be able to actually do anything like running or have a normal life because of this disease. And her mom though kept pushing her. Okay, her mom kept pushing her that she was going to be able to do whatever she wanted to do if she tried hard enough. And at the age of 9, she was able to remove the braces, and she actually made a goal at that young age that she wanted to become the fastest woman on earth. And for most of us, we'd laugh. Literally, we'd laugh at someone like that. You barely were walking, and now you want to become the fastest woman on earth. But her mom kept encouraging her. When she was 9, so she took off her braces, so she was able to walk normally now. At the age of 13, when she got into high school, she started. She was in track. Okay, she started racing. She was dead last every single time. That didn't discourage her. Is that an obstacle or not? Losing, is that an obstacle? Okay. It's a huge obstacle. Coming in dead last, big obstacle. She kept going. At the end of high school, she was the fastest on her track team. Okay, and she was playing on the basketball team and other things as well. You can look up her story; it's very famous a very popular lady. She was African American, and I think she was 18 or 19. She qualified for the Olympic team, for the track team. Okay, and the first year, it was I think 1956. She reached the Olympics. However, she didn't do well. Okay, she didn't really get any medals or anything like that. She got some recognition, I'm sure, but it wasn't really, to that point where she's getting somewhere further. So in 1960, though, the next Olympics, she tried even harder, of course, and kept practicing. She came first place in the 100-meter race, which is pretty much like you're the fastest person if you can do that. The 200-meter race and the 400-meter relay. Okay, so she came in gold, basically, first place in all of these competitions, and she became basically the fastest woman on earth. Now, one of the things that you notice, and we're going to go back a little bit, but in Ramadan, okay, how do you feel about your iman in Ramadan? It's very high. Are we able to pray a lot more in Ramadan? Definitely, okay? Are we able to fast all 29, 30 days? Yes, right? Are we able to read, a lot of us finish the Quran maybe several times during Ramadan, right? So we're able to do a lot more good deeds during the month of Ramadan. But usually after that, then it dips, right? Sha'ban, maybe not so much, Shawwal, not so much, and then in Dhul Qa'dah, we're probably at almost at the lowest point. And then inshallah, hopefully Dhul Hijjah is coming, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, very blessed days. I think it's going to be starting next week, inshallah. So this is something where we can boost our iman, inshallah, again. Right? So we take this dip and we usually go back to the ways before what we were doing in Ramadan. And this shouldn't be the thing, right? We should be, as Muslims, try to stay consistent throughout. So there's different goals, and that as Muslims we set in Ramadan. How many of you guys set goals in Ramadan or this past Ramadan? Okay, and a lot of times those goals we maybe weren't so. What I'm going to show you exactly is how to plan for those goals. But inshallah, a lot of times we just make those goals. We make lots of mad dua during Laylatul Qadr, but after that we forget about it, right? And then we just forget that we even made those goals in the first place. So this is one of the things that over here it mentions, I had in my notes, that there was a man who was, actually it was a king during Imam Malik's time, okay? He was very, very overweight and he couldn't find a cure. So he went to lots of different people, and one person finally told him that because of your being overweight and it's going to cause you to have a disease, you're going to die in a month, okay? And this king or this person got very, very scared, and what he started doing is he started watching his diet. He started working out, he started running, doing all sorts of different things in order to be able to live longer, right? Because he got scared that he was going to die. And he was able to cut his weight quite a bit just in a month. And then when he came to that person, he said, to get checked up again, pretty much, he had told him that, actually I was joking, or I was just trying to motivate you to change your life, and you're not really going to die. And so sometimes we have to have certain things in our life, something that shakes us, and that's why sometimes as believers we think why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm trying to be the best Muslim I can be. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing me in some way, right? But one of the things as believers we should remember is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He always has khair, He has always something good planned for us, and we have to have some faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He wants good for us. Okay? And so this is one of the things that if we start having goals, and setting those, inshallah, and trying to do them properly, we'll be able to attain them. How many of you guys have watched a movie called The Bucket List? Nobody? Wow, okay, so we should watch that movie maybe together as a class. It's about this there's two terminally ill patients, and they meet each other in the hospital, and as they're sitting or lying there and waiting for their death, basically, they decide that they're going to make a bucket list, okay, a list of activities that they'd like to do before they die. And so they start compiling this list, and then they start going through it. I haven't watched the entire movie, but
Old guy?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you've seen it?
On the plane.
On the plane. Okay. So they pretty much, one of them dies, but the other one continues to do those things that they wanted to do. So we shouldn't be waiting for something like that, terrible news to come to us, or something really that shakes our faith for us to change our lives, but rather, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with a lot of faculties. We can start now, inshallah. Now, the Islamic goal setting, okay? So we said SMART was specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, okay? And Dr. Zakir Naik, he came up with Islamic goal setting. So rather than the SMART acronym, he said Islamic. So first of all, it has to be the goal that whatever you're trying to achieve, it should be based on the Quran and Sunnah. It should be Islamic. For example, some people, unfortunately, they have liquor stores, okay? So would it be a good goal for that person to say, I'm going to open up 5 liquor stores before the end of the year? Okay? If he has a drug, I mean, A'udhu right? So there was this one guy, he used to be a hafiz, and then he became a drug dealer and all sorts of different things. So imagine if he's like, okay, I'm going to set my limit, or I'm going to set my goal this year to sell $1 million worth of drugs, right? Is that Islamic? Of course not. Okay? So first of all, the first thing you need to look at is your goal according to the Quran and Sunnah. It doesn't mean it has to be like memorizing Quran or praying more or something. No, that's not the point. Is it halal? Okay? That's what the first one is, Islamic. Second thing is, it has to be specific. And one of the, there's a story of this teacher, he was teaching his students archery. And one of his students, okay, he said when they were basically pulling the arrow or had the bow ready, the teacher told him to shoot at this bird. And he told him to aim at the bird at the treetop. And he said, don't shoot till I tell you. And he asked the students, what do you see? Okay, so there were several students. One of them, he said, I'm aiming, or basically I see a forest. Okay? So I see generally a forest. And of course, is he focused on that bird? Is he? If he's seeing a forest, is he focused on that bird? No. Okay? And the second student said, when the teacher asked him, what are you focusing on? He said, I see the tree. Okay? The third student said, I see the branch. Okay? And the fourth said, I see the eye of the bird. Okay? Or I see the bird itself. And then the teacher told him to shoot now, and he was able to hit his target. So again, the point is, you have to have very specific goals. Like sometimes, again, we make very general goals and we're not able to fulfill those things. Number 3, it has to be lucrative. Okay? It doesn't have to be profitable, meaning it has to make you a lot of money, but it has to be lucrative in the akhirah. Right? So if it has to have a lot of fada'il, it has to have something of benefit for you. Because a lot of times if it's something small, you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to have motivation to attain that goal because it's not a big deal to you. So it has to be lucrative. The next thing, it has to be apt, or it has to be appropriate. Meaning, again, it needs to be attainable, something that you can achieve, that you want to do, okay? And it's something possible for you to do. Now that lady in the beginning that I told you, Wilma Rudolph, yes, she had a very, very, you could say, unattainable goal, but because she was so dedicated, she was able to do it. Most of us probably wouldn't be able to achieve something like that. Okay? Most of us probably, first of all, we don't even have such high aspirations anyways, but we wouldn't be able to attain something like that, but we should think about attainable goals. Next thing is measurable, right? So one of the scholars, he gave the example, he said, for example, I want to build a building, a very, very high building. Okay? Unless he makes this something measurable, like I want to make it the world's tallest building, okay? Or I want to make it exactly this many, feet high, or something like that. That has to be, it has to be something measurable. If you have your head down, you know you're losing points, so I think you should sit up. Okay. Next thing is you should always look at your intention. Okay? Why are you doing that, and your niyyah and everything behind, or the reason for why you're doing that. And then the last thing is being consistent, okay? And like I mentioned about being time bound. So, for example, instead of saying, I want to memorize the Quran in the next year, what's a better way of doing it? Yes?
With the meaning. First memorizing first learning the meaning.
Okay, again, that's not specific. Yes?
I want to memorize like maybe 2 ayahs per day.
Good. Okay.
And I need to like finish half the Quran by the end of 6 months or something.
Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so that's specific, that's something measurable, right? So rather than saying, I'm going to memorize the Quran in a year, rather I should say, this week, I'm going to memorize 1 page. And what does that mean on a daily basis? I'm going to memorize about 2 lines. Okay? And I'm going to review that page every single week, or something like this. So, and then, like Rida mentioned, maybe at the end of the month, okay, and then maybe 6 months or 3 months or whatever, quarterly goals and things like that. So you have certain benchmark or milestones, right? So at the end of the month, I'm going to memorize 5 pages. At the end of like 2 months, I'm going to be able to memorize 1 juz of the Quran, and so on. And then inshallah, hopefully you'll be, if you stay consistent, you'll be able to reach these goals. Okay, the next thing, I wanted to give you the example, and I think I mentioned this before, but Shaykh Ahmed Didat, rahmatullahi alayhi, one of the great da'is of the last century, one of the things about him as his story, I think I mentioned this before at least, but when he was growing up, his mom passed away at a very early or young age for him, and they were from India. They moved to South Africa, and the father, he wasn't able to afford or pay for his education. Yes. So his mom passes away, they go to South Africa, and the father couldn't afford to send him to school, so in 5th grade he stopped going to school, started selling shoes, different items on the street to make money for his family or his dad. And as I mentioned, he made this goal that he was going to defend Islam from these people, evangelicals, or people who are trying to put down Islam. And he was able to do this when he grew up. And so these are examples that we can think about, but I want you to think now, the first example I gave you, Wilma Rudolph's example, and comparing it to Ahmed Didat, what are some of the differences that you can notice? Yes?
Ahmed Didat's goal was Islamic.
Okay, so definitely it was an Islamic goal, okay? It was something for the cause of Islam, very good. What else? Yes?
It was consistent.
It was consistent, okay, but she was consistent as well. And this teaches us a very important lesson, that the non-Muslims, even if they have worldly goals, they have goals for this dunya, if they follow these things, these, you could say, sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or these advices and tips and things, they are able to achieve their goals too. So it's not like, well, I'm Muslim, so I can achieve my goals, and they're non-Muslim, so that's, no. They can achieve their goals too. However, what's a big difference for us? Huma. Jazakallah. Okay, so this is another one. So he was doing it for the entire world and the ummah, you could say. She was doing it for herself, an individual goal. What else?
His goal was more time consuming, and rather than taking a few years like Wilma, took him like a couple.
His whole life. Okay, so he took his own entire life and dedicated towards this, while she dedicated, her early part of her life. But one of the things you guys are missing, the main thing, I think. And, Abdullah mentioned about Islamic, but yes.
Her seems impossible, like, in regards to her, it seems impossible. For him, it seems like, he could possibly do it. But
Okay.
Since she's,
So her goal was a little bit more impossible, you could say, but his was a little bit more possible. But if you think about a 5th grader going and defending Islam, if you compare them to the 5th graders of our time, you're like, what? No way that's going to happen. Abdul Salam first and Abdullah. Yeah. His intention, okay, so inshallah that's a big difference. And the last and the most, I think, important thing, her goal was for this dunya, okay? Her goal is something limited. So yes, she reached a lot of fame. I think she died in the 80s sometime. She reached a lot of fame, her name's everywhere. She's a very popular person in maybe encyclopedias and on the internet and different things like this. And Ahmed Didat as well. But his, inshallah, reward will be for the akhirah and for all time, inshallah, to come. Right? Till the Day of Judgment, his students and all, and their students and so on. Inshallah, his legacy will continue, inshallah, for hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of years, inshallah. So this is a huge difference again, that when we have these goals, the best thing to do, it's not wrong to have good aspirations, high aspirations for this dunya, but if we really want to, maximize our life, then we want to do or have goals for this akhirah. Okay, things that we'll be able to achieve in the akhirah. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I want you to write these steps down now. This is what you're going to do for. I'm going to give you some different, basically, ideas of how you can do this. But first, you're going to define a goal. Okay, I'm going to give you actually a few goals, so it's not going to be so broad. But you'll define a goal. Second, you're going to outline the steps in order to achieve it. Okay, you're going to outline the steps that you would need to achieve in order to achieve that goal. Number 3, you're going to consider the obstacles that might come in the way of you achieving your goal. Okay? Obstacles that might come in the way of you achieving your goal. And number 4, you're going to set a deadline. So it's time bound. Okay? Again, you're going to define your goal, number 1. Number 2, outline the steps that you need to, what you need to do basically to achieve the goal. Number 3, what are some obstacles that you might face? And number 4, deadline or deadlines, right? So it depends on how big the project is going to be.
Well, we have to actually get a goal.
I'm going to give you a goal, actually. I'm going to assign it to you right now. Okay. Now, okay, now the goals. I'm going to put you in 5 different groups. So we have about, what, 12, 14 students? 14. So about 2 to 3 people per group. You could go ahead and take a minute and get into your groups. So 2 to 3 groups, please. So the first goal. You're going to help fundraise money for orphans. $1,000 for orphans. Okay? That's your goal. The second team, you guys over here. You guys are going to make a goal of memorizing Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay? So you have like an expert over here. MashaAllah. Number 3, the third group. You guys are going to be doing, this is a little bit general. Okay? But you're going to stop an un-Islamic behavior in school. Okay? You're going to have to figure out some un-Islamic behavior. And you're going to have to try to stop it from happening. Number 4, Tasneem and Maryam. You guys are going to do, earn, and this is a personal goal pretty much, earn enough money to buy an iPad. Okay? And the 5th goal, you guys are going to think of ways, or your goal is to sponsor an orphan in the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Okay? Sponsor an orphan in the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah.